Hi, my name is Jeanne Fritch, and this is a segment that I have been asked to contribute by those who oversee the NHE, the Network for Human Empowerment, which to me is amazing unto itself. So I want to thank Yvonne and all of those who are here supporting this really endeavor that has been a movement. It's become a movement that will carry a ripple for a really, really, really long time into humanity. So I'm here. I am a mentor and a coach. I'm an entrepreneur. I am a mother and a grandmother. Um, I was a beloved wife of Denny for 34 plus years. I'm very happy to share with you some of the things that I discovered in my pursuit of a more excellent relationship with Denny. And we learned a lot about forgiveness. And there was a very specific thing that occurred in my life that caused me to dive into this subject. But before I go into that, I just want to just kind of cover a little bit about what forgiveness is. Because forgiveness, a lot of times people think that forgiveness is letting go of letting the person off the hook. Someone's done something to you. There's something that occurred. Uh, Something didn't feel right. Something wasn't right. Something was done to you physically. Something was done to you emotionally. And what happens is we tend to lock up those feelings in what I call the cell, CELL, like a prison. Like we take part of our energy and we move it over here, and we have inside of that space all kinds of unresolved hurts and the energy around them, unresolved conversations that didn't go well, unresolved relationships like that didn't end in a natural way or didn't end on a good note, so to speak. All of that energy is trapped inside of our individual energy field. All of us have our own unique brand of that energy, but we all carry the commonality of having it. And when you live your life from a place where there's little to nothing sitting over here that's bothering you, your whole world opens up, and your relationships open up, because forgiveness is always going to be connected, excuse me, is always going to be connected to a person, a place, an event, and the event probably involved people. So there's almost always people somewhere in the attachment to the energy that we don't want to let go of. We don't want to forgive something. And and the things we harbor can be from when we're really, really, really small, all the way up to when we're really, really, really tall. And um I think I'm going to start tonight. Well, you have that. And I am going to offer a little bit of my own story, because I feel like I was doing a lot of work, a lot of personal development work, a lot of professional development, leadership development. And when the need to do forgiveness work became really dominant in my awareness, I'm the kind of person that I don't push back from it. I'm about improving myself. I'm about empowering myself. And I have learned that when something comes up that needs to be healed, it's better to just confront it and heal it, either through the assistance of a coach or a mentor or a friend or someone who's learned it in a certain way and can, help assist. But confronting that is what causes it to be addressed. And if something is addressed, then it can be resolved. And when we talk about forgiveness, it is the process of confronting and confirming and letting go of past hurts. So it starts with confronting, being willing to look at it, being able to look at something that's sitting there that needs to be addressed, and then confirming that it's there. That's the confirmation, the process of confronting, confirming, and then through the confirming of it, which comes with developing an understanding of it, we can now let go of past hurts. Because what forgiveness does, it removes the narrative that's energetically attached to the person or the incident. So the narrative is a term that I actually learned through Yvonne Delafleur, through my her teachings, my studying underneath her. I learned about this thing called a narrative. I knew it existed, but I didn't know what its name was. And there's a power in naming things. When we name things, now we're confronting them, right? We're confirming their existence. Now we can work on letting go of them. So in the naming of what the story is, so the narrative is the story that we have built around whatever happened. So there are the events that happened, and then there's the story that we've told ourselves around that, and the story that we've told others around that. Now, I'm going to give you an example, because you may never have done this yourself, but you, I'm sure, have heard someone else talk about um, an ex-husband or an ex-wife or an ex-boyfriend or an ex-girlfriend or an ex-employer that did that person wrong. You may feel it yourself. When I say those things, you might say, well, yeah, that ex-husband of mine was blah, 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 blah. Well, before I had Denny, I had an ex-husband too. And in order for me to really build out the relationship with Denny to the degree and the depth, to the depth of the intimacy, I had to be willing to confront, look at, and release my attachment to the stories I had created about what had happened with me and my former husband. Denny had to do that with what things had happened with him and his former wife. So it is something that you will notice when people start complaining about someone, they usually tell you stories. And the stories are the things that lock in all the emotional attachment to whatever it is that happened. Now, I'm here to tell you that some of the things that occurred in my first marriage, they were hurtful. They were hurtful, and there was nothing too positive about them. However, if I lived in that energy, I would never have built out the most beautiful, robust, loving, trusting space of energy that my husband and I called our relationship. I would not have been able to fully open up because I would still be protecting the hurts. Even parts of me couldn't show up until I released some of that old hurt. I held a grudge against my own mom, my own mother, for a period of time. And as these layers of forgiveness come off, all that's left is love and appreciation for the person, for the event, for the experience, because we're here today. And in order to maximize all of our energy today, whether it's in our own lives or in our partner relationship, our child relationship, our friend relationship, all of those relationships are driven by the amount of energy that we can bring them and the openness that we can bring them and the presence in this moment that we can bring them. When we have things that we haven't forgiven, we're hanging on to remnants, hurtful remnants of the past. And on a subconscious level, our mind and our energy is maintaining those things all the time. All the time. It's always at work, keeping them contained in that prison cell that I talked about earlier. That is that trapped energy, and that energy of managing it that you don't even see. You just know you might feel a little drained. You may feel a little, I don't know, maybe your attention is half here and half not here. You don't feel really present. When you do forgiveness work, and I'm going to make a recommendation of a book, and I've been asked to do like 3 more segments around forgiveness into the spring this year. So I'll be back to talk on this subject again. It's really huge, and it's like, well, where do I start? So I'm just starting here with some of the basic definitions and the benefits, and also the drains, the negative, the stuff that drains you energetically because you're managing all this stuff back here and it leaks out. You find yourself, when you have a lot of things, a lot of energy locked up from the past that hasn't been released through forgiveness, your energy is drained, but you also will find that you tend to be more critical of others and definitely more critical of your own self. Like loving yourself is loving all of your story. And there's no way to love all of your story if you have these things, these regrets, these grievances, these points of anger, subjects that will, don't light a match around that subject because it'll ignite, right, in fire. So with forgiveness, what it does is forgiveness returns aspects of our energy to ourselves, and that allows us to restore wholeness. Yeah, wholeness. And that's the whole idea, is we want that wholeness. That's what we want. We want that wholeness in our lives. We want to be able to access all of our energy and all the wisdoms that are contained inside the lessons. Like if you lock up what happened to you and you refuse to look at it, you buried it. That's what we do energetically, because that's like a defense mechanism. It's like you insulate it from you. You know it's there. I don't want to talk about it. If you have a thing like that, I don't want to talk about it. That means that there's a lot of hurt and negative energy charge around subjects that are frozen over there in some part. There's some part of your energy, you're maintaining these things. And so when you release them, you're actually releasing more of your energy back to be used. It's amazing. You will have a lot more energy for a lot of things, including loving the people that you're with and loving the moment and loving yourself. So it is something that you do for yourself. It doesn't negate bad behavior. That's the biggest thing. When you forgive, they say that not forgiving is like taking a hot coal from someone and holding it and expecting the other person's hand to be burned. No, you took the energy. You're holding that unforgiveness. And that unforgiveness is like a smoldering coal of negative energy. And it's not hurting the other person. It's just hurting us. It's hurting ourselves. It's hurting yourself. So it is something you do for yourself. It doesn't negate bad behavior. And when you're doing forgiveness processes, It's not even important that the other person be physically present or even be aware that you're offering this forgiveness for this event or this moment, because what it's doing is it's restoring your energy to you. Um, all right, I'll go into that book and before we end off here. But let me just say this: forgiveness, what forgiveness does is it breaks the bond of negativity. There's a bond of negativity in any area that is being held in contempt. It's being held in memory of negativity or negative association or stories that take the form of narratives. Those narratives start to define who we are. So the past is defining the present, instead of the clean energy of the present defining the present and moving into the future with a cleaner energy. It releases criticalness. Forgiveness gives us back our personal power of creation, because again, you're creating newly, you're creating now. You're not creating from the past lens that's cracked or bloody. There were some bad things that came out after the fact around my first marriage. And through these processes that I applied in my life, I was able to fully release all of them and release him to his greater good and me to mine. I no longer felt like I had the weight of that. I wasn't trying to continue on some subconscious level to figure it out and resolve it, which is, I think, what we do. Our minds are so powerful. And I read a book once talking about the ant and the elephant, and that the ant represented the size of our conscious mind, and the elephant represented the size and the bandwidth of our subconscious mind. And the analogy was that the ant can live on top of the elephant. And at any time, it can turn and say, I'm heading this direction. And it could, head a certain way. But as soon as the elephant, the subconscious mind, changes direction, the ant, the conscious mind, doesn't even know that the direction has changed, because the elephant's so big and it keeps charging in this direction. But really, the direction has changed because the subconscious mind has taken over and is walking in a completely different direction. So one of the benefits of forgiveness is that the inner shifts that result, you have inner shifts and they're palpable, meaning you can feel them. And they then shift our world, because you and I, we are co-creating our experience. Right now, we're actively co-creating. If you're here and you're listening, I applaud you, because I'm speaking in English and Spanish is probably your primary language. And even though I'm almost 300 days of daily study of Spanish, there's no way I could deliver this information to you in any level of fluid Spanish. No. So I appreciate you being here and persisting through the English to grab some nuggets. And that tells me that you're someone who you're intent on making a change. I'm going to tell you this. I have been actively involved in daily personal development, daily personal, spiritual, professional development, some aspect every single day since I was 29. So for almost 50 years, I have been, no, 40 years. Whoa, I made myself a lot older. For almost 40 years, I have been actively engaged. And if that's you, if you're someone who's on that path, you know that every single thing that you do adds up, adds up, adds up. Like it's all moving you forward. But then there'll be something that you do, and it just moves you forward like many levels in one, like whoop, like you feel it. I will say that for me, doing forgiveness work did exactly that for me. All aspects of my life became better. My relationships became more honest, more respectful, and the only person that changed was me. Because forgiveness work is work that you do with the energy that you have. It's work that you do to release these past grievances, these past hurts. They're not hurting you anymore. So as I say that to you, I want to end with this little bit of the story of how I arrived to forgiveness work. So in the late 2000s, um, my father had he had an event that caused a brain injury, and he was completely dependent. Denny and I live the farthest from him. My family lives about 5 hours away from me, and Denny and I did not like the fact that my father was at a nursing home, so we took on the responsibility of caring for him. He was dependent. He was like almost, well, he was completely dependent. He could eat if you were feeding him. He couldn't feed himself, had to be turned regularly. It was a lot. And we did it joyfully. It was a lot. We did it joyfully. We helped him advance. And it was looking like he would be able to advance and live with just a caregiver in his own home environment. And that was kind of the goal that we were working towards. And in the course of this caring for him, my own husband, Denny, had a very significant stroke. So I have my father who's completely dependent on me. We have a caregiver that comes for part of the day to share the responsibility of my dad. And my husband was rushed into the hospital. And then it was about 5 weeks that he was there. He did intensive rehab. And in that period of time, I expected my family to come and help me. I have multiple brothers and sisters. They had various things going on. One sister was in cancer treatment, and another sister had younger children, and this was understandable, but no one came to help. It was astounding that no one came to help. And I had to trudge through all that and do all of that myself while insisting that we figure out another way for my father to be cared for. Because now I was going to have Denny home, and he was still in recovery from his stroke, and he was my priority. And so what happened was a lot of things got said. A lot of, when people are feeling under pressure or angry, they will say and do things that sometimes are not optimal. And that was what happened. I got to hear a lot of things about, myself and my incompetence. And once my father was moved, I told Denny, I think I would be okay if I never talked to any of my brothers and sisters again, which is really like, whoa, that's a huge statement. But I had experienced a lot of hurt. Now, one thing that's true is we do cause our own emotions. We're in charge of our own emotions, but very few people would be able to just deflect some of the things that were said. So I just quietly continued with my life. I would go up and help with my father periodically in his new residence. And I just really found myself, though, if someone asked me about anything connected to my family, I would launch into this story about how now I don't really talk to them anymore, and they didn't do me right, you know? I mean, I don't even wanna I can't even go back and re-put it together because 'cause I've released it, but the stories I had, the narratives I had attached to it were pretty significant, and I realized one day I heard myself. Have you ever heard yourself? Where you hear yourself and you're like, "Whoa, that is not me, that is not who I am, that is not who I stand for, or what I stand for," and so that night, I'm driving now about 2 weeks before that, a package had arrived in the mail. Someone who was, I had commented on a post, on Facebook, and someone had said, "Hey, it was a great event." I commented on some post. She had gone somewhere and done something, some class in a week, and I just commented, it sounded really interesting. And so she was like, "Well, give me your address. I have an extra book. I'll send you the book." And I was like, "No, it's okay. You don't have to send me the book. Just give me the name. If I want to buy it, I'll get you." "No, no, I want to send it to you." So this is important. "I want to send it to you." Well, I give her give her my information. Sure enough, a package arrives from her. I never open it. I never open it. It sits in my office for over 10 days. So now I'm back at my business, and I was dealing with a client, and I had that conversation where I realized that I was living in the what we call the narrative. And that narrative was gaining ferocity and velocity. It was just starting to mount, and I heard myself. I heard myself as someone that I never wanted to be, someone who spoke negatively about someone else, or someone that told stories about how bad this person was was to them. That's not my wiring. And so I heard myself, and I'm driving back home. My business is about 40 minutes away from my house, and I'm driving on the highway, and I'm talking to God out loud. And I literally remember sobbing as I'm driving and pounding on the steering wheel and saying, "God, help me with this. I'm like, it's almost causing me anxiety that I have all of these grievances and unresolved feelings for my family. I know you assigned me to this family, and I'm a family man. I don't want to be a part of it." And I was done crying. I went in the house. I think I got my husband something to eat, and I went into the office. And as I go into the office, I pass this envelope that's still sealed with this book in it that she sent me. And I thought, I should at least open this book, read a couple pages so I can tell her, "Thank you, I've gotten into the book." And honestly, I don't know that I had any intention to read it at all. So I opened up the package, and the name of the book is called The Law of Forgiveness. Yeah, it's a God thing. It's the name of the book is The Law of Forgiveness. It's by an author by the name of Connie Domino. It's available on Amazon. It was written a couple decades ago now. It was phenomenal. I picked it up and I started reading it, and 2 hours later, I was halfway through it. And from there, I finished the book. I did all of the processes that she has a specific process of visualization, to aid people in their forgiveness work. But she gives all the background to the why of forgiveness. And then she walks you through this very holistic way through making of releasing grievances. It took me days, because the more that you release, the more things move into your awareness. Like, the older stuff comes forward, and then the older than that comes forward. And then one day you're just like, wow, you you just feel lighter. You realize the change. I have other forgiveness practices that I use, that are more maintenance oriented. I can tell you in a minute if there's something bothering me, because I have cleaned my energy so much that someone could probably yell at me, and I would be okay with it. They could yell, it's okay. I get that it's their experience, it doesn't have to be my experience, but I didn't get there overnight. I got there through doing the work, and I got there through understanding forgiveness. But the fruits of forgiveness are truly, some of the sweetest fruit that I have ever found in my pursuit of, living better, having fuller relationships, being happier, feeling able to be present in this moment instead of in the past moments. So, I enjoyed sharing here with you today. I thank you for being on this journey of personal development that you are, of human empowerment and empowering other people. And I look forward to us meeting up in the near future.